Hey, kiddos. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope your families are well um, as we work our way through this remote learning. So far, you guys have been amazing with daily attendance, keeping up with classwork. So I appreciate that. I assure you that I'm not going to be looking to kill anybody's grade. These are unprecedented times and circumstances. So I'll do the best I can to make sure everybody's pupil path is looking okay. All right. Yesterday we looked at farming in LDCs. Today we're going to look at what farming looks like in MDCs. But before we get there, let's do our buzzer beater questions. So, which form of migration are farm workers from another country most likely to be practicing during the year? We got chain migration, cluster migration, circular migration, international migration, and intranational migration. It's kind of a tricky question. I hope we can eliminate cluster migration because we've never talked about it. I hope we can eliminate chain migration because that's when a member of a family moves to a place, establishes him or herself, and then the rest of the family moves over. So we're left with cluster migration, international migration, and intranational migration. The key here is farm workers. All right. Farm workers are likely to practice what's called circular migration. So that means that they might be in an apple farm in the spring, and then a watermelon farm in the summer, and then a pumpkin farm in the fall, and they might go back to their home countries in the winter and then come back again. But they go in this circle, and they repeat the circle year after year after year. So that's why it's called circular migration. All right, second question. All of the following are reasons major cities attract young people in Latin America except, and we know that AP loves that word except, availability of jobs, potential for decent housing, educational opportunities, their families already live there, and urban lifestyle. On the face of it, these all look like good pull factors, right? These are things that would get people to move. The one that's not true, however, is that their families already live there. Generally speaking, in Latin America, young people would leave their family in the countryside and move to the city. All right, it's not like the city has abandoned the young person in the countryside and moved to the city without them. So our answers are 3 and 4. All right, throwback. 4 types of agriculture that takes place in LDCs. What are some geographic factors required of each? And in what countries might these take place? So here they are. Shifting cultivation. We also call that slash and burn, and that's when societies and families cut down the rainforest. They plant food for a couple of years. The soil loses its fertility, so they have to go on and do it again. Obviously, the key geographic feature is rainforest. So we've got Brazil, DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Indonesia. We then talked about pastoral nomadism, maybe one of the oldest forms of agriculture, where families move from place to place with their herds seeking good grassland. Most likely to find that in Mongolia, where a third of the people are nomads, Kazakhstan, and Kenya. Intensive subsistence is the most common form of agriculture in LDCs. That's when you have lots of farmers working on small plots of land, consuming the food in their own household, so there's no surplus to sell. See that lots in South Asia, like India, and Southeast Asia, like Cambodia and Vietnam. Lastly is kind of the most difficult one to think about is plantation farming. We know like plantation, we associate that with slavery. What these are big, huge farms, usually owned by a foreign company that create one crop or grow one crop for export to MDCs. So sugar, coffee, tobacco, tea, bananas, these are all like common crops grown on plantations. So Brazil produces lots and lots of bananas and coffee. Sri Lanka is a big tea producer. Ecuador is a big banana producer. All right, let's move on to agriculture and MDCs. By the way, if you have questions after you've watched this, just feel free to post it in the stream or email me and I'll get back to you. So agriculture and MDCs, as you might imagine, is quite different. Relies heavily on technology and seeks to make it profits from their farms. So they grow huge amounts of surplus and sell that food for money. The United States is the largest exporter of food in the world. We grow way more food than we need, and we sell it to the rest of the world. Net importers are in yellow. This is kind of precarious because you don't have enough food to feed your own people and you must rely on others. Like in Russia, there's climate conditions that make it hard to grow food. China simply has just a huge population. Japan has a big population and not a lot of land. So all of those are reasons why they might be a food importer. In MDCs, we do something called crop rotation, which LDCs can't really afford to do. If you notice that picture, we got plants, 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 and then nothing happening here. And this is a decision by the farmer not to farm these crops and give that soil a year to replenish its nutrients. And then maybe next year, the farmer will leave that unfarmed and the soil can replenish that. Often there's brother-sister crops. So corn sucks certain nutrients out of the soil that soybeans put back into the soil. So often one year the crop will be corn, the next year it'll be soybeans to maintain soil productivity. When you decide not to leave or to leave a field unfarmed, that's called leaving it fallow. LDCs can't do this because they need to get as much food as possible. And what they sometimes do is called multi-cropping. Well, they'll actually grow multiple crops on the same piece of land in 1 year. So you plant your rice, you harvest your rice, then you plant more rice and harvest your rice all in the same year. So in MDCs, grains are super duper important. They're easy to transport. They're cheap to transport. They provide lots of calories. In the United States and Canada are the largest exporters of grains. In the US specifically, our largest two crops, as I just kind of mentioned with crop rotation, are corn and soybeans. And again, it's to maintain soil fertility. As one sucks it out, the other one puts it back in. Corn is by far the biggest crop in the United States. It's used for lots of stuff, but it's not just like 4th of July, ear on the corn on the cob. Most of our corn feeds animals. All right. It's not like the packaged frozen corn that we get. Yeah, we do that, but most of it goes to animals. And that kind of shows you the inefficiency of meat consumption, because we could just be eating the corn ourselves. Instead, we're wasting it on a cow and then going to eat the cow. A lot of people get pissed about this. Ethanol. Corn gets turned into gasoline that gets put into our cars. And a lot of people think, why would you do that when there's people around the world that need to eat? Why would you then just burn it in your cars? And that's a legitimate concern. All right, next type. When we think about animals, we call that livestock. All right. And in the United States, it's not normally happy cows walking around eating grass. It's what's called a feedlot. Here's a feedlot. Cows are squished into horrible conditions, force-fed corn. Cows would naturally eat grass, but on a feedlot, they're not allowed to. And they get as fat as possible, as quickly as possible, and then they're slaughtered and sold. It's kind of like a meat assembly line. And that's what's called very capital intensive. That means it takes lots of machines, not so many people. Places where you still have lots of happy cows walking around eating grass, Brazil and Argentina. All right. This is like a map of countries' meat production, what they produce the most of. So United States, it's cattle. And then in the Middle East, it's sheep, because we know they have dietary restrictions with pork. Parts of Africa, it's goat. Goat is delicious. Australia and New Zealand, big sheep farmers. Last thing, dairy farming, where we get our milk. Old school, back in the day, there used to be called milk sheds. And so basically, like right outside the city, you'd have dairy farms. And that was because the milk would spoil if the farms were far away. But now we have like pasteurization and refrigeration, even refrigerated transportation for milk. So the dairy farms can be far away from the cities. But again, it's not like milkmaids like milking animals. It's lots and lots and lots of machines. All right. And again, people criticize this for animal cruelty. Here's what a dairy farm looks like. Cows are herded into this machine once or twice a day, hooked up to the machine and milked. All right. And oftentimes they're given hormones that allow them to produce as much milk as possible, as quickly as possible. All right, I lied to you. Here's last. Horticulture is fruits and vegetables. And to grow fruits and vegetables, you need what's called a Mediterranean climate, like the climate around the Mediterranean Sea. So the places in red have Mediterranean climates. California, Chile, around the Mediterranean, parts of Australia, that's where lots and lots of our fruits and vegetables are grown. Here's world food production. I don't know if you remember from global history, the Green Revolution, the use of modern farming techniques. You can see how successful it's been. But again, like so many of our graphs right here in 2008, we see it go down, and that's a result of the Great Recession. All right, kiddos. Hope this helped. Email me with any questions. There's our work for the day. It's going to be posted in Google Classroom. Keep your heads up. Keep yourselves busy, occupied. Reach out to your teachers or admin or APs with any questions you might have, and stay safe. All right, take care, kiddos.